Mark Noble, whoa. Mark Noble, whoa. He plays in claret and blue. He's West Ham through and through. Mark Noble, whoa. You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards, and James Jones. Another week, another win, and another conversation about whether West Ham actually can qualify for the Champions League. But having written my intro for this podcast on Tuesday morning, I was forced into a hasty rewrite when an open letter from club captain Mark Noble was posted online just hours later. Thousands of fans rushed to read it with a sense of foreboding. So many, in fact, that West Ham's website crashed. And sure enough, when I finally laid eyes on it, I, like so many others, discovered that next season will be Noble's 18th and last with West Ham United. The club he's supported since he was a boy, the club he was born around the corner from in Canning Town, and the club he has played for and for the last 5 years captained with distinction. But the sands of time continue to shift, and in similar fashion to when the last season at Upton Park approached, I'm left with a somewhat sad and empty feeling that a little bit of what supporting West Ham United is all about will soon disappear forever. However, sad as the news may be, West Ham are fifth, 2 points behind fourth place Chelsea with a game in hand, and with Man United and Arsenal coming up in the next 2 weeks, the week are about to be sorted from the chaff. The 2-0 scoreline against Leeds belies the fact that we made difficult work of it against football genius Marcelo Bielsa's team, and I'm looking forward to finding out whether James Jones and Tom Edwards will allow anything, even slightly negative, to be said about the performance on this podcast after both Declan Rice and David Moyes admitted they weren't happy after the game. Was James Allardyce cupping his ear at the TV during the post-match interviews, telling our talismanic leaders to shush like he does to me? Or was he frantically trying to take down the We Are West Ham episode in which he implored the club to send Craig Dawson back to Watford in January because, and I quote, what's the point of him being there? But before we get onto all that, we must discuss Noble's impending departure. And blimey, lads, if ever the boys needed a reason to get over the line and into the Champions League for next season, surely this is it. A European night under the lights for our most loyal player of the modern era would surely be the perfect way to him to bow out. James, he'll leave having lived his dream, played more than 500 games for the club he loves, potentially beating Paolo Di Canio's record Premier League goal haul, and he'll be in the top 6 or maybe top 7 or maybe 6 West Ham appearance makers of all time. Will we ever see anything like Mark Noble ever again, James Jones?
No. Is the answer to that.
Next, Tom.
Yeah. No, I mean, we knew this day was coming, didn't we?
Never.
But as much as we didn't want to believe it was coming, we knew it was coming. And yeah, you're right. It does feel like the West Ham that we know and love is coming to an end, because most people, given it what he made his debut back in 2004, most people only know a West Ham with Mark Noble there. I don't believe it for a second that he's going to leave the club 100%. I think he'll stay on. He said in his statement today that he's working with the academy in some capacity. So maybe that's his next job. He's lining that up. Obviously, his son's coming through the academy, so maybe his son can come on and replicate or even better what he's done over the course of the next 20 years or so. But yeah, it's a sad day for the club, sad day for Mark Noble, but so every cloud, at least we'll get the chance to say goodbye to him properly next season. Hopefully that is touchwood.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of it. He alluded to that himself, didn't he, in the statement that he the open letter to fans today, or Tuesday that is, in which he said that, didn't he, that a part of that decision was so because he just couldn't fathom saying goodbye to West Ham or playing his last game for West Ham in front of no fans whatsoever. Obviously, we're fingers crossed that the first game of next season, there'll be 60,000 of us back in. But Tom, obviously that dominated the news today. Loads to talk about tonight as ever. But the Mark Noble news kind of took precedent over everything else earlier, didn't it? How did you feel when that statement came out?
Yeah, I think rightfully so. That is the most important thing going hard. And yeah, it was sad. It is sad because he's all I know, really. Growing up as a West Ham fan, 18 years of my 24 years, he's been in that first team. So it's gutting to see him go, and I hope he gets that real send-off that he properly deserves with 60,000 in there on a potential European. It would be fairy tale way to go for a man who's conducting himself in class throughout, and fingers crossed he gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one of the texts in one of my group chats earlier on said that exact same thing. You know, he didn't get an England call up, criminally so, I believe, especially that end of that 2015-16 season. He's definitely warranted at least one cap in his career when, you know, the likes of Tom Huddleston getting picked ahead of him. But for him not to miss out and to say at the end of his career that he did play in even the Europa League proper. I know the Champions League might be a stretch too far this season, but even the Europa League proper would be absolutely fantastic way for Noble to bow out. It was a little bit sad, lads, to be honest. You know, it's life, isn't it? All good things must come to an end, as we all know. But James, you first. I think Mark Noble reaction. You've given me your initial feelings when the news was announced earlier today. What sort of stands out of those things you mentioned? Best moments. What would you like to see him do in the future? You tell me. You go first. Tell me what you want to cover. Talk to me.
I mean, as I already said, it's totally sad that this day's come. He's lived the dream with every West Ham fan, hasn't he? Local boy, grown up, played for the club that you grow up supporting and watching as a kid, and you end up going captaining the team over 500. Well, by the time he leaves, probably over 550 appearances for the club. 400 by then, 400 Premier League appearances. Probably over 50 goals. Like all the dreams that everyone dreams of, he's lived. He's done it. And I'm in complete awe of the bloke, to be honest. I absolutely love him. Still one of the biggest injustices in English football that he's never been capped at senior level for England. But you look back at some of his career highlights, and there are so many. I mean, we could dedicate, a full episode to Mark Noble and his West Ham career. You know, captaining West Ham on the final game at Upton Park. Well, obviously he mentioned it in his statement that that sort of memory will is history for him and his family, and being there for the playoff final at Wembley against Blackpool and playing an important role in that. So, I mean, they're just two things. He's been around for so long, 18 years, a hero, a true West Ham hero, and I just hope that he's remembered in the same way as many other West Ham legends that have come before him. Okay, he's not won any trophies like the likes of Billy Bonds and Bobby Moore and Trevor Brooking and the like, but he's still up there alongside those names in my book, because you don't get many players like him in the modern game sticking around for the time frame that he has. And staying at the top level for the time that he has. So I hope he stays at the club in some capacity. But sad that we're beginning to see the end of Mark Noble at West Ham.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's the continuity aspect, isn't it? And and we've heard it because it's been publicised, but that every single day on the training ground, you've got that last connection almost to the fans. And I think that's what's a little bit sad from my perspective, and a bit of a concern in some ways. Like you said, hopefully he sticks around. And on the coaching staff, Tony Cottee on the podcast 2 weeks ago imploring the club to keep him on as an ambassador after he leaves, whatever he does. So he was open-ended in his statement, Tom, wasn't he, about what he's going to do next. You'd think really he could just go on a couple of years in the MLS, couldn't he? It's not like he's got no football left in him. He said he still feels fit and healthy. What do you reckon he'll do afterwards, Tom?
I think I'd be surprised to see him play for anyone else. Actually, I think
just in England or anywhere.
I think anywhere. I think some of what I've heard him say maybe seem unlikely that it would be something he'd even want to do. If it wasn't a West Ham shirt, he wouldn't want to put on anyone's shirt, sort of thing. So I'll be surprised, because I think one of the other characters in him, he is that one club man who stayed there. And I think to end it there and potentially on a high under Moyes, if we are in Europe or whatever, and he goes out with some sort of a bang in the season that all the fans are coming back. That's quite a special way to go out, and I think he might be sentimental towards that for sure. And also, he's just done it all. I'm not sure what MLS would do for him. I think he's not really in it for the money. I'm hearing he's quite a business mind, quite shrewd, and he's got a lot of investments which have actually made him quite a substantial money outside of the game anyway. So wouldn't be for financial reasons. And I hopefully, in a way, selfishly, I would like to see it all end with West Ham where it really started, because yeah, the full circle for me, like I said earlier, 18 years of my 24 years, he's been there, and it will be really odd not to see him pull on the shirt, but he will go into the club, and I think that's a certainty that he'll have some sort of capacity there for the rest of his life if he wants it.
Yeah, yeah. James, Tom mentioned there about whether or not he would move on. Do you think China is feasible? You know, I mean, a footballer's career is so short, isn't it? And if he's got, I don't know, 150 grand a week, maybe 200 grand a week on the table for China for another year, he might be extremely, these other business ventures and stuff, I don't know whether they're returning that sort of money. Is that the sort of thing you just think, oh, I'll just do it? You know, he is a homely lad. He lives in Shenfield, I think it is, or just nearby to Shenfield, and a nice, very, very nice house indeed. Thank you very much. But I don't know. You sort of think, do you just take it while you can? Is that's the mindset of lots of footballers, isn't it? Understandably as well. Not that it's greedy or anything like that, but if you're blessed with a talent, and you've got that there, do you go and make the most of it while you can? Because realistically, the next 40 odd years or whatever of his life, your income streams are going to be far lower, certainly, whether you do media or coaching, than they have been thus far.
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure players going over to China for a payday is a bit of a dead duck these days. I think they brought in some wage caps or certain restrictions in terms of how many foreign players they could have in each squad or something, which I think the tax over there now has gone up, because I think they were getting a little bit annoyed that the likes of Oscar was going over there Arnie going over there for 300, 400 grand a week for a 6-month payday and then coming back, and they were being exploited over there. So I don't see Mark Noble as the type of player to even consider something like that. MLS potentially, but then why would he? As we've already said, he's a family man. Is he going to want to, either leave his family for 6 months to a year, particularly in this day and age, or fly them over there for a year and uproot his family just for the sake of a few extra quid that essentially he doesn't really need.
Well, yeah, it depends on your scale of reference, doesn't it? But yeah.
Well, yeah, but like Tom said as well, like he's a businessman, as he's got himself sorted, financially off the pitch in terms of his investments and business propositions, and he'll wanna stay in England, I'm sure, and I'm sure he'd be doing everything he can to stay at West Ham in some capacity. He's already alluded to the fact he'd like to do a bit of coaching. West Ham's the club for him, and we've already got a lot of ex-players currently at the club coaching the academy. Carlton Cole, Jack Collison, they're all there. It's some
Miami.
Some group of ex-West Ham legends coaching the academy. I mean, some of those young kids are living the dream, aren't they?
I do also think that he's one of the very few. He's put himself in the position to be able to go out on top. I know people say it's not top winning the Premier League, but it is effectively his dream of finishing it at West Ham. And I think very few people ever get in that position where they can end their career at a club like West Ham, the size of us, and potentially successful at this time if Moyes carries it on. So I think we will see him end it at West Ham one way or another and have that special day out and finish it off nicely.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got a hunch. I think if it was that way, I don't know why, but obviously a year's a long time, and by the time it swings around, it'd be nearly 15 months or whatever, 16 months. I just fancy that. David Beckham, Phil Neville on the blower. Come on, Mark. come on, it's lovely down in Miami. Beach every other weekend. I don't suppose his wife and kids would take too much convincing. I certainly know, having been to Shenfield High Street and Miami Beach, I can safely say that I know where I'd rather spend a year. That is for sure. But lads, just quickly before we move on to part 2, statue, James, yes or no?
No.
No statue for Jonesy. All right, can't be brief then. Tom, statue?
No statue.
Oh,
statue.
what is going on, lads? What do you mean no statue? What are you talking about? Right, James, you first.
So, where statues are concerned, I think you start giving it to a player like Mark Noble, and this is no disrespect to Mark. I think I've even said. I think I even said this when we had the radio show at Love Sport, and I had a few people tweet me, sort of going, "What are you on about?" But
well, feel free to tweet James again if you don't agree with him. At by James Jones.
If we're gonna give Mark Noble a statue,
players like Mark Noble, you said, I think, yeah.
Then why hasn't Vic Watson got a statue? Club's all-time leading goal scorer. Why hasn't Trevor Brooking got a statue? Why hasn't Billy Bonds got a statue? I know they got stands named after them, but you'd rather a statue if you're a legend, wouldn't you, rather than a stand named after you?
I don't know. I think that's sort of.
I don't know. What I'd rather them
stands, I think, are better. But yeah, go on.
I'd rather them rename the Billy Bonds stand to the Mark Noble stand and give Billy Bonds a statue.
You don't like Billy Bonds? Oh God, look at these revelations.
I'd rather Billy Bonds have a statue than Mark Noble. I love Mark Noble to pieces, but I don't see. No, I don't think he should have a statue.
Oh, blimey!
There are other ways. There are other ways to honour Mark Noble's legacy at West Ham, and I just don't see a statue being one of them. I wouldn't like be pissed off if they went and did it. Like actually gone, here's a statue.
You're out there like the Bristolians, ripping it down and throwing it in the river.
Do you know what would be a good way of going about it is retiring the number 16 shirt.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's a rubbish number anyway, isn't it? No one's going to be that upset about that.
Exactly. Players. Just retire it. 16 is synonymous with Mark Noble, isn't it? So retire number 16 and happy days.
Well, Tom Edwards, I mean, main takeaway from that, I assume any fans who like to tweet me grief after podcast episodes, I'm assuming after James has revealed that he doesn't like Billy Bonds or Mark Noble, will be
just put words in my mouth. It's fine. Just put words in my mouth. Yeah, no, it's great.
I just don't want me to get the abuse this week. Tom, no statue for you either. What are you saying?
Yeah, like Jonesy said, I think there's other people in the history who potentially have more of a claim to it. We've not won anything during this period. It's not exactly been a particularly golden period for the club. It's probably been one of the darkest spells that we have had going through the stadium move and everything. And I know his loyalty and what he's given the club deserves to be remembered because it is the last time anyone will ever see this in top flight football. It really is. So he needs to be remembered, like Jonesy said, possibly with retiring your number, maybe one of the other stands or whatever it is, but something which lasts eternity. But a statue needs to be reserved for when Declan Rice lifts the Champions League in 2025.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised at that. I kind of understand. I would suggest that a stand named after you is as good, if not better, than a statue. But I don't know what next season's going to look like, how much he's going to play really, but I'm certainly delighted that he's got another year. If for no other reason, then he keeps the continuity at the club going. As Tony Cottee mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's more chance, I think, of keeping Declan Rice after that news, which is positive as well, particularly if we're playing in Europe. So all very nice now. Massive respect for Mark for what he's done for the club so far and what he will no doubt continue to do next season. But lads, we